Hi, welcome you all to this instructional video of how GPS works. So before we get into the GPS, let's talk about tracker. So what is a tracker? So in a very simple sense, what is tracker? So in a very simple sense, tracker is a tracker is a device that we use to track a location. Now, why do we need to know a location? In a very simplistic case, let's assume we are going to a jungle and suddenly we lost our way. Now, what will help us find our way? So I think we must have heard about a word called GPS. That's global positioning system. That's one of the trackers. So to sort of understand what really is a tracker, so imagine there's a boy named Steve. He's in the jungle and there are all the bush around Steve. And then Steve's mom, so this is Steve, and Steve's mom, Ashley, is calling Steve. And similarly, there is Steve's dad, Pete. He's also looking for Steve. So what will happen? So in a typical case, Ashley will say, "Hey Steve, where are you?" And Steve's ear hear that signal. Similarly, Pete will say, "Hey Steve, where are you?" And Steve's ear picks it up. So now Steve could be comfortable because Steve knows that Pete, his father, and Ashley, his mother, is close by. So that's a typical GPS. That's a typical tracking scenario where you know your position and then you say, okay, now I know what's going on. But there's other fun stuff. Now, how would Steve communicate to Ashley and Pete where he is? So that's called communicating, right? So Steve needs to say, "Hey mom, I'm here. Hey mom, I'm here." And then he just yells at mom back. And "Hey pops, I'm here." He just yells back. And that will help track where Steve is. Isn't that fun? So that's called. So now in the second case, Steve is telling Ashley and Pete that I can hear you. So now Pete and Ashley can imagine that Steve is in a hearing distance from both of them and probably in between them. So this basically is one way in which Steve communicate back to Ashley and Pete and give his coordinates. So this is a typical case of tracker, a very physical tracker. No technology involved, just physical. We hear something and then we know where we stand, and then we talk and tell everyone where we stand, so everyone else who hear about it listen to where we are. So now let's get to another fun scenario. So now imagine there is someone called Ashley, and then there is someone called Pete, and there is someone called, so she's Ashley, he's Pete, and then Mark. So now there is, and in this case, Ashley knows her position, so she knows where she is. Pete knows where Pete is, and Mark knows where Mark is. So now in this case, there is a boy called Sam. And Sam is lost. So now Pete says, Sam, you are 3 steps from me. So if you say 1 step, 2 step, and 3 step. So we can draw a circle around what the 3 step really means. And Ashley said, hey Sam, you are, say, 5 steps from me. So we can know 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, maybe 5 step. And Ashley, let's draw a circle with Ashley. So in this case, we know Sam could be either on this location or it could be on this location, because 3 step from Pete and 5 step from Ashley is sort of meeting the circle at 2 spots. Now it's important for Mark, and say Mark says, hey Sam, you are 3 steps away from me. So 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. So now if you draw a circle from, say, Mark, so you realize this is the location of Sam. So that's why you need 3 people telling their coordinates or their location, so Sam knows where Sam is. And again, the same thing. So in Sam, I know where Sam is. So now take an example where David, Sam's father, is looking for Sam. Now Sam needs to tell, what does Sam needs to tell David? So this is 5 steps, this is 3 steps, and this is 3 steps. So probably Sam will say, hey David, I am 3 steps from Pete, I'm 5 steps from Ashley, and I'm 3 steps from Mark. And this is how a tracking system works. So these are the coordinates that Mark gave for his location. Isn't that fun? So this is in a generic sense, when Sam hear all this information, so Sam exactly know where he is, but to tell it to Mark, Sam needs to communicate, and Sam needs to communicate its location. So now David knows exactly where he needs to go to find Sam. So this is a very analog version of how the tracking works in the real world. So now let's talk about something called global positioning system. We must have heard about this word, global positioning system. And why do we need it? We need it to know where we are around the world, in which location we stand. So in a typical example is our GPS system that we use in our car every time. So some of the typical use case of GPS is a car driving from, you say Sam is going to his uncle, and he has no clue where the location is, so he used GPS to get to the location. So Sam take his car, I hope this is a good looking car, and he put the GPS, and GPS get its signal from satellite, and we'll talk about this system very soon, and show on the map where these coordinates are. And this will help him to drive to the right location to get to the house. So now let's see in a typical world how GPS works. And along their journey, we will also learn about how the atmosphere works. And so this would be a fun thing. So say this is Earth. And say this is Sam. Sam has a phone. This is an iPhone. And Sam is looking for my box. And Sam's box, this is a box. He's somewhere here, and the Sam's box has a GPS tracker. GPS tracker and messenger, and we'll talk about it. So in our beautiful planet Earth, we have something called layers of atmosphere, or layers that makes up our atmosphere and beyond. So the first layer, that's a beautiful layer, 20 kilometers it stretch, it's called troposphere. And then there is something called stratosphere. And then it's this mesosphere. And then there is something called exosphere. And basically exosphere reach out to pretty much the space. As stratosphere, where we have ozone, etc. And troposphere, so this is where with all the atmosphere, all the weather patterns and everything is seen. This is a beautiful layer. So now the GPS satellite is somewhere here. So this is a GPS, and this is around 20,000 kilometers, 20,000. So let me write, for simplicity, it's 20,000 kilometers away. So they are very, very far, very, very far. And GPS has just one role to play. It yells its location to Earth. So it yells its location to Earth. So this phone knows, this phone says, I know my location. And this box says, because GPS tracker, I know my location. Right? And as we discussed in our previous example, we need a set of 3 to 4 GPS satellites to exactly know where we are. So at any point, so typically in our in around Earth, we have about 31 GPS satellites, and we just need 24 GPS satellites for to function. And at any point, at the least, that our GPS device should see at least 3 GPS satellites for knowing our exact location, as we saw in our previous example where pretty much Sam was lost and he was relying on Mark, Peter and Ashley's location to know where he is. So now in this case, iPhone knows its location because thanks to Mr. GPS. Similarly, a box knows its location thanks to Mr. GPS. But how would box tell Sam where its location is? So that's a question mark. How the box will tell Sam where its location is. So in a typical case, there is something called, so whenever a box needs to communicate back or yell its location, it needs a communication link or a communication channel. So box needs to yell at something, its location, so that thing could tell Sam where the box is. So to do that, there is something called communication satellite, ComSat. And since we cannot talk to someone who is 20,000 kilometers away, ComSats are normally 99 kilometers or something away from our location. So a good enough beam from the GPS tracker and messenger system could reach to the ComSat. So what will happen, excuse me, this GPS, this tracker, inside this tracker will beam its location, will say, hey, here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am, and it got picked by communication satellite. And then this communication satellite, so I think you must have all hear about something called dish. Let me remove this, so to make it simpler, we all know what this thing is, right? So we have seen something like this. There's a transponder here, it's a dish antenna. So now the ComSat says, hey dish, I have heard this link from this box saying, hey Sam, this is my location. So GPS says, here is my location. Remember, the tracker also knows on the box where the location is, so it just delivers that. And then the antenna reached to something called cell tower. So it reached to something called cell tower, and we know our cell phone talk to cell tower all the time. So now this thing goes to cell tower saying, hey, there's a call for Sam from a box and its location. So now it just goes to Sam, hey Sam, this is the box, this is where the box is. So starting from GPS, the message goes to the box, and then box talks to the communication satellite, which then talks to the dish, which then talks to the cell tower, can then talk to Sam for Sam to know the location, and then Sam can look at the location and get to the box. So now to draw it in a simple way, so to draw in a very simple way, this is what's happening. So the first step is the GPS satellite. This is a GPS satellite. It sends a signal to something called the box, which is lost that we want to see, and box tracker. Now in this case, so now the tracker knows its location. I know location. It talks to something called communication satellite, saying, here is my location. And then this communication satellite talked to something called dish, the message, here is box's location, and this is second, this is third, then this is fourth, and then this talks to the cell tower, and what it says, this is step 5, here is box's location, and this talks to a cell phone, with box's location. So now Sam can quickly go and retrieve the box. So GPS talks to tracker knows its location and say, communication satellite, can you tell Sam this location? Communication satellite says okay, gets to the dish gets to cell tower says to Sam, and this is how a GPS tracker works. I hope you like this video. So let me know let us know your thoughts, your suggestions, and if you want us to elaborate something or you want us to cover something. Thank you so much, and stay on this awesome journey to learn engineering, and do share, like and comment, and we'll be looking forward to hearing back. And thank you so much. Bye bye.